Where the hell am I?
Stand by.
And cut.
Got it.
I guess the thing that made me feel it was actually possible to make John Carter now was because of how much I understood computer animation and what we were capable of now. How to make a purely computer-generated character believable and interesting and likable.
The main challenge for us was to create living, breathing characters that had to stand right next to living, breathing, real people and look as real to the eye as Taylor looked on film.
And if we can make a 9-foot green alien, then you've conquered reality.
You are ugly, but you are beautiful.
Every now and then a project comes along like John Carter, and it's a fantastic project because it's a mix of animation with photoreal that makes John Carter unique.
Okay, and action.
This movie, John Carter of Mars, its scope is pretty massive. It's almost fair to say that there are two films being done. One is kind of what you're seeing shooting behind us right now. And the second part is actually all the visual effects, because almost 50% of the cast is completely digitally created.
It was a solid year of pre-production to come up with all of our creature designs. And one of the things that we did very early on to kind of start the process of the visual development, we shot a 2-minute test with a Thark.
The biggest hurdle, visual effects-wise, was the Tharks, because there was so much demanded of them. You had to believe nature really produced these creatures. We designed them based on anatomy and physiologies that exist in our world of Earth.
We've actually modeled them after African Maasai warriors who are very tall and gaunt and ropey. And they live in a desert setting, very much like Mars. So we're trying to bring in things that feel very organic.
What we learned very quickly is that if there is logic behind it, it becomes that much more believable.
I really felt strongly that to get believable performances from the animated characters, you'd need reference of actual actors doing it.
Andrew showed me designs, and I was quite struck by the beauty of the designs. I was excited by the prospect of playing a 9-foot-tall Martian warrior.
Jeddak. Tars Tarkus.
Because 95% of the Thark moments are with a human, we have to have an actor acting against an actor.
Andrew was very insistent that he wanted these scenes played out. You still have to perform it with a kind of heart and with a kind of believability, even though you're doing these wildly exaggerated actions because of the technical requirements. You still have to stay with it.
And he will be called Dotar Sojat, my right arms. No. I don't fight for anyone.
You can just tell when somebody's acting against a green wall versus somebody acting against a real person. You can just see it in their eyes.
I tell you, it's helped me so much. You bring in an incredible group of actors to bring these characters alive. And if he's there in character, I do really look at Tars and connect with him, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
This is madness, Dotar Sojat. You'll die! I'll see you down the river, Is.
Even though it was very demanding, all of these actors enjoyed the idea of putting on a different kind of mask.
Pretty, huh? The actors donned a motion capture suit, and they had to walk around with these dual cameras which constantly shone lights in their eyes and blocked their points of view.
And we just decided to slightly position them so that they'd feel like what the tusks would feel like for the Thark characters, so that the actor didn't mind these things staring at them. They actually made you just imagine their tusks.
Having us here in the mocap suits, it's the only real way for it to not become completely mechanical. They've gone away from motion capture. Now they talk about it more as performance capture. You know, it's human capture.
They also had the dot matrix on their faces, and that helps the animators actually extrapolate the information that the cameras capture when they're acting and actually map it onto the CG character.
As an actor, it has been very hard. The head rig felt tied to my rig that I have to wear. It gets heavy, but I just love it. I feel like I'm part of this new technology. And that feels really exciting, to be part of something as an actor. You know, acting's been going on for many, many moons. And now here we are communicating with this technology. It just blew my mind. It feels like you get out of bed every morning, you're like, bring it on, come on.
I must honor my Jeddak and redeem my unworthiness.
You want to honor your father? Then stay alive and help me.
My father?
Andrew said, you're going to be 8'9". You know, we want to do a lot of stuff on stilts, if you guys are up for that. And that was a little daunting. You know, it wasn't easy, but to me, that's the authentic character, is me towering above everybody, you know?
When we shoot these scenes, we'll shoot the scene first on stilts. Then we'll do it again with just us playing the scene with heads on sticks. And then one where they take some figures and they do tests with balls to test the lighting and all that. That's like a special effects take. And then one with just Taylor. So he's got to have a memory to duplicate how physically things are accomplished. These are all different modes of filming to help the animators.
It's tremendously helpful to the animators to have this, not only for actual digital information, but also for reference. What does Willem Dafoe do when he smiles? What happens to his eyes?
The way I look at it is I'm creating material for them to work with. But that's sort of true in all film. You're generating something and then it gets changed into a performance afterwards.
So it's really the pairing of a great actor with a great animator, making the perfect hybrid performance to make believable characters.
We had talking and acting characters, so we needed to hire animators that could handle performances.
In any sort of animated film like this, it has a ton of character animation. It's like casting your actors. They are your actors.
You should give them the same kind of scrutiny and auditioning that you might with any other leads on a live action set.
We hired a lot of animators who are used to working with a realistic style of animation. And as we get into it, we started to move away from that on the creature side. So Woola, for example, is a lot more cartoony in our approach to animation.
We have almost a full-scale head for Woola with a mouth that opens and eyes that move so that the actors actually have something to act off of. We'll do many takes with him to try to get the actors familiar with him, and then we'll remove him for a take or two so that they're acting against nothing and he'll be put in digitally.
The starting point of Woola acting is, first of all, make the character alive and make it interact well with what has been given us as a backplate.
Woola was difficult to animate because he had to break the rules of physics with him because he could move so fast.
Quit it!
He had all those legs, you had to rig his flesh so it would move appropriately. Very, very demanding.
On an appeal factor, everybody loves Woola. You know, it's the dog everybody's always wanted, so in a weird way.
We reached an epiphany with him in a scene when John Carter is talking to Woola, and Woola looks at him. We animated it as if he was listening. And Andrew was like, no, 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 take that out, take that out. He's just a dog who loves his master. And as soon as we looked at him like a real animal, we played the scene differently. He looked at John Carter with massive puppy dog eyes, a big dumb creature, and everybody suddenly fell in love with him, and that's Woola.
You belong to him! Woola would follow you anywhere on Barsoom!
Then you have the thoats, which are massive, almost horse/cattle type creatures. The thoats in the movie kind of present a different challenge than the other characters because they actually are being ridden on and they're constantly in movement, so that we had to figure out kind of how are we going to make this movement feel real and have it actually affect actors in the scene in a way that we could then replicate when we put it into CGs.
We'd done a whole bunch of animation tests with a digital saddle.
So we had a first version, slowly trying to make these shoulder hits and all the weight hits in the shoulder to animate and key
the same beats as he would move and rotate around. And that was a really successful test.
And we gave that animation a test to the guys that built the rig.
We had these amazing rigs that were practical saddlebags so that the actors could sit on them that were attached to these ATVs that then were programmed by the animators into the saddle mechanism.
So you just buy the reality of it. It's like completely convincing.
Being on these huge four-wheel rigs, that makes you feel like you're on a thoat that actually has the movement, you're driving it, and you have the reins. All those things help you make it more real.
There was a specific design and look to the Warhoons, a kind of Neanderthal man, caveman version of a Thark. So their clothing had pieces of bone from their previous victims. They were bigger, stronger. It's always a challenge with the big crowd-oriented animation scenes. We've got so many characters in every shot. The challenge of it was making sure that our first layout stage was clear and every shot really did its job and read. Because paced to a piece of music, you have a very fast cut. Some of our shots are really big and wide, and when you go that wide, we have a crowd tool, a separate piece of software that does a simulation of hundreds and hundreds of characters. And then often an animator will, by hand, add details in the large crowd shots just to make you believe what you're seeing.
From day one, as soon as we got asked to work on the film, we said, if we do one sequence out of the film, we want to do the White 8 sequence. We were just blown away by the whole scale and the spectacle of the scene.
We really liked the notion of white apes because they get brought up again and again and again through lots of the books.
We had a bunch of conceptual designers drawing a ton of things and trying to come up with, scale and, well, what makes them different from, say, a great ape on Earth.
Our initial reaction was to go down the sort of King Kong route, and Andrew wanted to steer us away from that because he felt like the audience would be too familiar with that.
Then the big idea came that they actually don't have eyes, so that they survive from a keen sense of smell.
There's no real story point where you're told these things are blind.
Yeah.
So we had to sell that very quickly with the performance. That was a challenge in itself.
The raw scene is Taylor acting in front of a prosthetic head on the end of a crane, pushed by two special effects guys.
Then you've got Taylor being lifted and thrown around.
The Great White Ape scene was something I'll never forget. Just the energy in that ring, it was really great.
And it was really Taylor, a bit of sand and a bit of sky. And then the rest was added in.
Our team was responsible for the ape arena, so our job's to create a very broad, extended environment that seamlessly integrates with the set.
Yeah, pretty much all the environments we have doctored and changed in a certain way. Pretty much every shot has a background done by us, and we can extend the sets.
What was tricky often was that we would be doing, these major set extensions, and so the environments needed to fit with these characters that were being created so that, you believed it would have the kind of scale and it would have the kind of authenticity.
You have to make it feel like these guys really are in there. We really plussed that sequence.
Tharks did not cause this, but by Isis, Tharks will end it!
John Carter's an amazing experience. It really summed up the whole visual effects world. The whole show has been a collective, creative process.
Somehow the amalgamation of the actors, the technology, and Andrew Stanton's direction allowed us to really have living, breathing characters that are in the movie as much as the live-action characters side by side.
The process of making an artificial world like this just takes so many steps that go on for years. And it always ends up just being the most humbling, breathtaking look back at the end of it all. And you just can't believe what you were able to do.
When I saw you, I wished to believe it was a sign that something new can come into this world.